Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another pick and prediction video for the college football season. We're talking week 5 of the college football season. As you can see, 7 and 13, man, is struggling. Last year, 59%. This year, I don't know what we're going to end up at. We got to turn it around, though. I got 8 games for you on tap in this video. Got to press on. Everybody has bad stretches, right? So let's find out. We're going to start things off with Oregon at Penn State. It's the game of the day. College game days in town. Penn State night game in Happy Valley. It's a whiteout too, so keep that in mind. This is a game between two teams with national title aspirations. Two teams that are likely going to go to the college football playoff, in my opinion. But they're two teams that haven't played anyone, right? This is the game of haven't played anyone. You're going off of essentially what happened last season, who people are bringing back, because you don't really know what you have with the Oregon Ducks or the Penn State Nittany Lions. Oregon's margin of victory, 41. They're out there playing Montana State. They played Oklahoma State, who I had as the worst team in the P5, and they beat them by 66. Penn State's out there blowing out Villanova and Nevada. You know, both these teams haven't really played anyone. So then what do you really have? When you're looking at this, who's really stood out? What position group has really stood out? One thing that's really stood out to me is Oregon's pass protection, particularly Alex Harkey at offensive tackle. He struggled this season. He struggled against bad teams. Now he's going to go against Dennis Sutton, one of the best edge rushers in the country, with a team full of great pass rushers. So I can, in this game, I can kind of see Penn State getting a lot of pressure on Dante Moore. Then you got Dante Moore's first road test. He's had it easy. He's had it easy so far this season. The last time we saw Dante Moore really on the road was his true freshman year, and he's out there throwing pick sixes. So what is he going to look like in a whiteout game at night in Happy Valley? That's not an easy situation. That's an easy environment to play in. Then I'll look at the other side. You know, you got Penn State offensively is what they've been for a few years now. Drew Aller is a quarterback that people overrate, in my opinion, because he has the physical tools and size that you want in the NFL, but he doesn't play like an NFL quarterback, in my opinion. He's okay at the college level, but I'm just saying, we're not talking about an elite quarterback here. And then at running back, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, they've been a good duo. They didn't start as that great. They're not really that explosive, but they're certainly good enough. Now they're seniors. You're seeing more production from them. Katron Allen, 93 yards rushing per game, 7.8 yards per carry, 6.4 yak. That's how many yards other college he's getting 6 yards a carry or 6 extra yards. But, you know, competition, right? That's what it's all about. It's about competition. Penn State did go into the portal and get 2 wide receivers, Trevor Pena and Kyron Hudson from Syracuse and USC. 27 catches, 310 yards so far this season. So they're looking good, looking like good additions they had for Drew Aller to get some balance to this Penn State offense, which really last year relied on the running game and Tyler Warren at tight end. Oregon, on the other hand, at running back, Noah Whittington, is he going to play or not? He didn't play in the last game. From what I've heard, it's going to be, I guess, up to a game time decision. So obviously I'm doing this video on Friday. We don't know if he's going to play or not in this one. And I think they're going to need him because the other Oregon running backs, they haven't really shined against poor competition. Now, it could be because they're spreading the ball around because they're blowing everybody out. But just no one's really caught my eye in that Oregon backfield as of yet. So what do I think is going to happen in this one? I think Dante Moore isn't ready for a test like this. He's not ready to go into Happy Valley. He's not ready for a whiteout game. He's not ready for that crowd in that environment that he's going to be in. And I really do believe that the biggest variance you see between both of these teams in this game is the pass rush of Penn State versus the Oregon pass protection. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I'm going to take Penn State, but I am laying the 3. I don't give a damn if it's 3.5. You're not catching me with the half point. I'm taking Penn State, and I am laying the 3. All right, moving on to the next game. We've got Ohio State in the Big Ten. Ohio State visiting Washington. Ohio State's first big road test this season. Ohio State comes in as an 8-point favorite. Started out at 11.5. So this is, I think, a popular upset pick for this week, and a lot of the public is on Washington. A lot of sharps early on were on Washington as well. So what do you got when you have Ohio State? Obviously, you got the best wide receiver room in the country. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, so far this year, combining for 534 yards. I think that they're the 2 best wide receivers. Everybody thinks Smitty's the best wideout, no question. But I honestly think Carnell Tate's the second best wideout. I think he's going to be a first-round draft pick as well. Smitty's averaging 105 yards receiving per game, so he's picking up where he left off last year. But What they're going to go against is a Washington secondary that I think has the, if he plays and if he's healthy, has the best corner that he's going to see all season. That's Tacario Davis. A lot of people don't know about him. He used to play at Arizona. This kicking ball, he can cover. He can't cover Smitty all game, but he's going to be a better matchup than what Smitty has seen thus far. But is he healthy? Got banged up in the last game, I believe. So not sure if he's going to play or not. Then you look at the running game for Ohio State. I'm sorry, the running game for Washington. That's a big plus on Washington's side on how they can win this game is establishing Jonah Coleman at running back. 115 yards rushing per game. I thought going into the season he was the best running back in the Big Ten. I still believe he's the best running back in the Big Ten. He's going to cause some problems to Ohio State rush defense. Now, I know they're allowing 3.1 yards per carry, but that's taking into consideration all the teams that they've played. When they went against Texas, Texas found some room to run on Ohio State, and Jonah Coleman is better than those backs that they have. So I think Jonah Coleman is going to find some room to run against Ohio State in this one. Biggest thing for me in this game, though, I look at Denzel Boston, 23 targets, great wide receiver. But the next wide out is 8 targets. It's the passing game from Damon Williams at quarterback is all about going to Denzel Boston. And Ohio State, Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, I don't see him letting a one-man gang at wide receiver being able to beat him. Igbinosin at corner, I talked about him a lot last year, the most penalized corner in America, clowned on him. This year so far, in man coverage, he hasn't allowed one catch. So he's turning it around. This Ohio State secondary so far early in the year is looking really good. To me, I know this is an upset, a popular upset pick, but I like Ohio State and laying the 8. I don't think that Washington is going to be able to move the ball through the air a lot in this one, so I think they're going to be one-dimensional. While I think Julian Sain, the passing game for Ohio State, is going to get going against this Washington secondary that I'm not sure is going to be 100% healthy. All right, moving on to the next game. We've got going to the SEC now. Got another big one. Alabama visiting Georgia, rematch of a classic from last season, maybe the best game of the college football season. Georgia is a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Opened at 4.5 and it went down to 3.5. So maybe some people are thinking maybe Georgia's not going to get the revenge, right? Look at this game. First thing that pops out to me is Alabama starting to get their dudes back, right? At running back, they get Jam Miller. He's going to make his debut in this game. If you've seen Alabama play this season, those other guys they got at running back, man, they can't play. Richard Young, former 5-star running back, man, please. No. None of them can play. Jam Miller being back at running back is a big boost to Alabama, and I think that's going to make a big difference for Alabama going forward this season. And then Tim Keenan, one of the best defensive linemen on the team, coming back up front. So these are 2 big additions to Alabama for this game. Then we talk about Todd Simpson in Alabama. You got to talk about Todd Simpson, right? I thought he was terrible against Florida State. Well, because he was terrible against Florida State. I had my reservations about him coming into the season. But the last 2 games, different competition, 41 for 46, 606 yards in the last 2 games. He's been on fire, right? Going against the Georgia secondary that just got barbecued by Tennessee and Joey Aguilar, 370 and 4 touchdowns. There's opportunity here because Tennessee's got Chris Brazzell at wide receiver. That's not Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. So there's opportunity here, I think, for Todd Simpson to hit some passes down the field because I think he's going to have that balance with Jam Miller back at running back. So they're not just going to be able to focus on the pass, is what I mean for the Georgia front 7. And then on the Georgia side, are they going to have balance, right? I've talked about Nate Frazier since last year when he's a true freshman. People, you think Georgia, man, you could talk Todd Gurley. You could go further back. You could talk Noshawn Moreno. Yeah, and on and on. Georgia has had dudes at running back for decades. Nate Frazier is not that guy. I didn't think he was that guy as a freshman, former 5-star pick, as I talked about with Richard Young. Not every 5-star is a 5-star. 60 yards a game is what he's averaging now as a sophomore, 4.8 a carry. As long as carries 21 yards, and they haven't exactly played outside of Tennessee. They haven't played the greatest of teams, right? So pedestrian is what I would call it. I mean, I'm just not seeing. I guess I'm not seeing what everybody else is seeing. Maybe he's going to shut me up and he's going to ball out in this game. But for me, I look at that Alabama front 7 against this Georgia running game. I think it's going nowhere. So now I think you're talking about a one-dimensional attack with Gunnar Stockton. Is Gunnar Stockton really that guy passing the ball? Alabama is 3rd in the country right now in passing yards allowed. So I'm looking at an Alabama defense that potentially could really shut down this Georgia offense. I don't know if Georgia's getting the revenge or not, but what I do know is I'm taking Alabama with a +3.5 in this one. I'm not calling it an upset. I don't know if Alabama's going to go into Athens and win this and continue their dominance over Georgia, but I like the 3.5 on the road. All right, moving on to the next game. We're talking LSU visiting Ole Miss. Ole Miss comes into this game as a 1.5 point favorite, another revenge game. Ole Miss lost to LSU last season on the road, a game they were leading late. Game got tied up and then went to overtime and they lost in OT. So they're looking for revenge in this one. We talk LSU, you got to talk two things. One, how dominant their defense is. They're allowing 10 points per game so far. The pass defense is 5.4 yards per attempt right now. It's dominant. Led by Mansour Delane, who is on fire. Delaney's on fire out there. He's looking like the best corner in America. And they're doing all of this without a pass rush because when you look at it, out of all their top pass rushers, only one of them has a 10% or better pressure rate. His pressure rate is 10%. They went to the portal and got Jack Piper and Patrick Payton, but these guys aren't really paying dividends. They're getting the edge rushers they had last year with Swinson. They're not, clearly. It's not really working, but it doesn't really matter because on the back end, they just have been completely lights out. Then you look at the offensive side, sputtering. Nussmeier at quarterback. Last year, he was a gunslinger. They were making a lot of plays down the field. This year, they are heavy on short passes. They are just dinking and dunking. Aaron Anderson is looking good at receiver, but the portal guys, Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson, they have really made an impact. Xavier Thomas has done a little, but the reality is these guys are just not stretching the field at all. Look at Ole Miss. They're going with their backup quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, which is the smart move. I've seen enough of Austin Simmons to know he ain't that guy. This dude, Chambliss, is an absolute monster. The last two games, total offense, 407. He's averaging 417 yards. They got 5 players also on the team as far as pass catchers go with double-digit in targets. So they can spread it around. So while you do got this outstanding LSU secondary, they're going to have to cover a bunch of different guys in this one. More targets than they've had to deal with so far this season, I think. One thing to note, though, for Ole Miss, though, 190 yards rushing allowed per game right now. That's terrible. But LSU can't run the ball. Caden Durham is going nowhere. The LSU's offensive line has been horrible in run blocking this season. So what's going to give? A terrible running game or I would say terrible run defense. So that's going to be interesting to note in this game. But for me in this one, I like Ole Miss at home, revenge factor. Chambliss is a monster. He's balling. I think LSU secondary is absolutely balling, but I think they're going to be spread thin in this one. Ole Miss got a lot of different guys that get the ball to. I like the running Rebels at home to get revenge from last season. So laying the 1.5. All right, moving on to Auburn visiting Texas A&M. Texas A&M coming in at 6.5 point favorite, down from 7. This one is all about situation for me. You look at Auburn, you got coming off of a tough road loss last week to Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold's return game. He wanted it to be his revenge game, because people kind of ran him out of there. Instead, they lose the game. He gets sacked into oblivion, right? Oklahoma set a school record for sacks in that game. And, are they going to be up for Texas A&M this week? While Texas A&M, on the other hand, they're at home, and they're coming off a bye week. 2 weeks ago, they had a thriller against Notre Dame. If that was last week, this would be a different story. But they had 2 weeks to prepare. I'm a big fan of Coach Mike Elko. 2 weeks to prepare off of that game. I think he's going to have his team ready to rock and roll because there's some issues with Texas A&M that I'm sure he's noticed, as others probably have as well. One, the defense. This run defense is soft. There's a lot of veteran players on Texas A&M, so you got to wonder, why is Texas A&M struggling defensively? Starting running backs, so take out the backup running backs and take out quarterback rushes. Starting running backs are averaging 107 yards rushing per game against Texas A&M right now. Pass defense, CJ Carr, that same CJ Carr you saw against Miami in the opener who was struggling, he hit Texas A&M for 290. Guys like Will Lee back there, Tyree Chappelle, what are you guys doing? These are veteran players getting barbecued like that from a redshirt freshman who, in my opinion, really isn't like that, at least not yet. So I think Elko probably realizes that, probably sees that, and he's going against an Auburn team that has a heavy run identity. I think they have a great rushing attack with Cobb, Alston, and Arnold running the ball. I know they didn't look that great against OU, but if you take the sacks out, they were moving the ball on the ground in that one as well. So it's going to be a tough task for Texas A&M in this one to stop this Auburn running game. But that's the problem. Auburn's too one-dimensional. Nobody's respecting Jackson Arnold passing the ball. You've got, no one's going to believe me, but you probably got one of the best receiving corps in the SEC in Auburn, but they're not using them. Cam Coleman is outstanding. Eric Singleton, you go into the portal, get Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech to transfer in. He's one of the fastest players in the ACC. He transfers in. His average depth of target, 3 yards. 3 yards is average depth of target. That means you're just throwing horizontal passes to him. You're not using him. This is an extension of the running game. So everything's about running the football right here. It's too one-dimensional. I don't believe that you give Mike Elko 2 weeks to prepare for a one-dimensional attack, and he comes out and he doesn't realize what's going on. If this game was in Auburn, and with Marcel Reed's inconsistency, as you can see, in passing the football, I'd see a different story. But at home, with 2 weeks to prepare, I got Texas A&M. I'm laying the 6.5. Got a lot of favorites, clearly. All right, moving on to the next one. Notre Dame visiting Arkansas. Notre Dame, 4.5-point favorite. A lot of people on Arkansas on this one. 6.5 down to 4.5. Must be because of Taylor Green. Taylor Green out here playing hero ball, right? Hero Heisman ball, as I call it. 360 yards rushing the season, almost 1,200 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's trying to do everything he can to get Arkansas a W, and it's still not working. They've lost their last 2 games. They lost last week to Memphis. They blew an 18-point lead. There's just nothing on this team outside of Taylor Green, if we're being completely honest. They allowed 290 yards rushing to Memphis, right? Outside runs have been killing them. Now they're going to go against Notre Dame with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Prince, who've bounced back from the Notre Dame game, have been heating up. Love, 94 yards versus Texas A&M, 157 yards versus Purdue. As a team, 254 yards last week against Purdue. They're starting to be back to what Notre Dame football is all about. It's a lot of vulnerabilities right here. I think it's a big mismatch between Notre Dame's running game and Arkansas's run defense in this one. Taylor Green against this defense. Notre Dame hasn't been as elite defensively this season as you expected them to be, but they've still been a solid defense. This is going to be the best defense Arkansas has faced this year. Can Taylor Green keep it going, keep playing that hero ball to keep showing out? I don't think so. Notre Dame's deep run defense has been outstanding, so it's going to be one-dimensional attack out there for Arkansas. I see some turnovers in this one for Taylor Green. I think it's going to be some desperation plays because I think Notre Dame's can control this game with their running game. I think they're going to methodically pound Arkansas into submission in this one. They're probably going to hit them in the mouth all game long. Give me Notre Dame, and I'm laying the 4.5. Moving on to the next pick. Kentucky visiting South Carolina. So if you haven't heard, Kentucky is starting redshirt freshman quarterback Cutter Boley. He got his first start last week against Eastern Michigan. 12 for 21, 242 touchdowns. This guy loves to throw the ball deep. But you can do that against Eastern Michigan. When you're playing against South Carolina, different kind of story. So defensively in the secondary, 6.7 yards per attempt. Pretty good. 58th right now in passing yards, total passing yards allowed. Kentucky doesn't really have any weapons on the outside. So now you got this redshirt freshman quarterback going on the road in a night game in Columbia against a good secondary without any weapons on the outside to get the ball to. It's going to be a tough road for him, right? Then you look at the other side of the ball. Kentucky's 123rd right now in passing yards allowed, right? You got Lenore Sellers at quarterback who, for whatever reason, isn't running the ball, but he's got some guys on the outside to throw to. In this game, I can definitely see him hitting Nick Harper down the field for a few big passes in this one. But he's got to run the ball more. 17 yards rushing this season so far. He had 145 at this point last year. So, and this is against a Kentucky defense that's not very good. So he's going to have opportunity to run. I think you're going to, this for at least maybe for one game only, you might see the Lenore Sellers that everybody expected, the Lenore Sellers from the second half of last season, step up in this one. Because that Kentucky defense overall is just bad versus the run. They're bad versus the pass. JQ and Jordan Lovett in the back end versus zone. 15 yards per attempt. Lovett, 12.7 yards per attempt. They're giving up plays down the field. Sellers is going to be able to scramble, roll out, and hit big plays in this one down the field. And then, again, Boley, he's going to be under pressure. He's going against a good secondary, but then he's going to go against Brian Thomas and Dylan Stewart coming off the edge. It's a tall task for a freshman to go into. Only 6.5 was kind of odd to me. Maybe I'm missing something. But go ahead and give me South Carolina laying the 6.5 in Columbia at home at night. And then the final game. The final game. A game that is probably nobody cares about, right? I probably don't really care about either, to be told. But it's Arizona visiting Iowa State. It's kind of a big game in the Big 12. People really know this, but Arizona is actually 3-0. But they Hawaii and Weber State. They crushed them, to their credit. But then they beat Kansas State. Struggling Kansas State, though. 23-17, they won that game. Avery Johnson, that game, they held him to 80 yards passing in that one. Arizona's defense has been swarming all over. Is it the Desert Swarm of, what was that, the early 90s? Who knows? Right now, 3.4 yards per carry they're allowing, 3.7 yards per attempt they're allowing. That's obviously not going to stand. But so far, early in the season, Arizona's defense has been looking good. But now they're going to go against the best team they've seen thus far, and it's their first road game of the season. They're going up to Ames, Iowa. Sometimes when you have situations like this where you have a soft schedule and guys are looking real good, they get exposed, and then sooner or later, then they start to not look so good, right? You go against Iowa State. They've got a running game that is solid. Abu Sama, Carson Hansen, these guys are steady as they come, averaging 130 yards rushing per game right now. First big test, I could say, there for Arizona. And then Rocco Beck, pass offense, averaging 8.5 yards per attempt. He's finding guys down the field. What's big in this one, I think it's going to be big in this game, is the tight ends. Burkle and Brahmer, 240 yards receiving thus far for their tight ends. Both of them are on pace to get around 500 yards receiving. You don't usually see that at college football, but he might not trust the guys he has on the outside, but in the middle of the field, these tight ends, he's doing a lot of work. One thing to note, though, Iowa State's best pass rusher is questionable for this game. Don't know if he's going to play. They need somebody to rush Noah Fafita. Maybe not, because the reality is Fafita doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to. They're going against a tough Iowa State secondary. I think this is going to be a defensive game. I think Arizona's probably not going to do much scoring in this one, both passing and running. I like Iowa State in this game, laying the 5.5. I think Iowa State's defense is going to dominate. I think you're going to see Rocco Beck and the rest of the backfield also dominate as well, running the football. So anyways, that's it. That wraps it up. I got 8 games for you. I know this video is kind of long. I try to make it go as quick as I can. We gotta turn it around. 8 games. Let's see how we do. But anyways, if you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that. As you can see, more football betting videos, both college and NFL. I'm gonna do my first NFL one, or my second NFL one as well for this weekend. Take care.